Hey everyone, this is Jesse from Janjo. First off, thank you for checking out this video. If you haven't subbed yet, I make Yu-Gi-Oh content weekly. On top of that, check out my merch, Patreon stuff if you want to request videos for this channel and get some awesome Yu-Gi-Oh themed merch. So I got 5 spicy techs for the GOAT format, and I want to bring them all to your attention because I want to make all cards playable. So let's get started. Wait, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, because that helps me upload more videos and know that you like content like this. Alright, so I first want to mention that I am not a GOAT master, I'm not an expert of the game in many capacities, but I do like card theories, deck discussions, building that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of great cards in GO format that people don't play. There's obviously a pool of the cream, but there's a lot of great cards I want to talk about. And so the first one I want to talk about is Frontier Wiseman. When I first saw this card, I thought it was really interesting because he's a Frontier Wiseman. He is an Earth level 3 monster spellcaster with 1600 attack and 800 defense. His effect reads, negate any spell effects that target a warrior type monster you control, and if you do, destroy that card. Now this is a really great card, I think. First off, he's a level 3, so he can get under a card like Gravity Bind, and he does have 1600 attack, so while he doesn't go under Messenger of Peace, he still has a pretty decent attack for a level 3. He has the same attack as a Tribe-Infected Virus, as a debuffed Breaker, 100 more than DD Warrior Lady, and the downside is that you can't search him with Reinforcements of the Army, which is unfortunate because this is a card that works well with Warriors. And warrior monsters in the GOAT format tend to be really good, whether it is a warrior toolbox or a chaos warrior, zombie warriors. Really, any warriors combined with anything tend to be pretty great because there's a lot of fantastic warrior cards in this specific 2005 format. Now, what Frontier Wiseman does, if you haven't guessed already, that he negates spell cards. So this is a great way to protect your monsters from spell cards for at least a turn, if not more. It forces your opponent to figure out other ways to deal with it. Now they can't use certain powerful spell cards to target your more powerful warrior monsters. Now this is a kind of a card that you need to have set up after the fact. This is one that you don't really need to see turn 1, but it does have some pretty great effects. Otherwise, in terms of its level, stats, or what it can do, again, it does have some downsides here and there, but I think generally it is a good card for at least a one-of for warrior decks, for at least maybe testing out, I think, for its good protection and for its field presence. I think it's pretty great. Alright, so moving on to the next card, we got the SASUKE Samurai number 2. I love this card art. It's like the guy from Shaolin Showdown, but with samurai armor and his giant sword. I love the art of it. In fact, I never even noticed the burning trees in the background, I think it's supposed to be, so that's really cool. SASUKE Samurai number 1 isn't too bad either, because that one essentially has a Mystic Swordsman effect, except that Mystic Swordsman is just a better card. And the other SASUKE Samurais don't really do anything of any use. And we're not even counting Grandmaster Sokka, that's a separate other card. But SASUKE Samurai number 2 has its own effect, and first let's just read the card. He is a Wind level 1 monster, the warrior with 200 attack and 300 defense, and its effect reads as the following. Once per turn, during your main phase, you can pay 800 life points, and if you do this until the end phase, spell and trap cards cannot be activated. This is a really great attack, not attack, excuse me, let me rewind that. This has a really great effect for a monster, I think, that people kind of been having under the radar. First off, it's a wind monster, so you can use it with Flying Hamakiri to get it out pretty quickly. It's a level 1, so you can use Metamorphosis for 1000 Eyes Restrict. It does have low attack and defense, so it's a possibility for a target for creature swap to give your opponent a very weak monster just about anything can attack over, except for Thousand Eyes Idol, for whatever reason. But its effect is the main thing here, and that is, since it's during your main phase 1 or 2, and you can pay the low cost of 800 life points until your end phase, protects your entire field from spells and traps, which is phenomenal. Now, you cannot activate your own spells and traps, and that's unfortunate, but you can decide when to activate Samurai's effect. So that's a plus there. It's essentially like a monster version of Cold Wave almost. Cold Wave Light, a breeze wave, if you will. And it's great because you can use this card whenever you deem fitting to use, and all of a sudden your opponent cannot use cards like Mystical Space Typhoon, Dust Tornado, Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute, Ring of Destruction, a ton of cards. Now they can chain it during the end phase to the resolution of Samurai's effect, but for most of the turn, when you want to do a lot of your setups, whether it is the main phase 1 or during the battle phase or so on, it's a great effect to protect a lot on the field, potentially. It is kind of a situational card, but again, it does have uses otherwise, like I've mentioned. Probably similar to Frontier Wiseman. This is probably a one of in the deck, maybe. I don't know. It does have a lot of potential. It is searchable with reinforcements of the army, in which Frontier Wiseman is not. So, I really like this card. I think there is some potential to be had with it, and that's kind of the point of this video, is to showcase some cards that is like, hey, there's other good cards. Maybe not meta-defining cards, but good cards nonetheless. And if you have any suggestions for, if you want to do future kind of tech videos for probably like any format, honestly, if you want, let me know. You know, I'll take all suggestions, and maybe I can form a part 2 of this. We'll see. So the next one we got is Blasting the Ruins. This is more so of a deck kind of thing than a tech necessarily, but I think it is a very powerful card. First off, its art kind of looks like Desert Sunlight a little bit. Maybe it's just me. It's a normal trap, and its effect reads, you can only activate this card if there are 30 or more cards in your graveyard. Inflict 3,000 points damage to your opponent's life points. This is crazy, because it's not once per turn, and once you have that requirement met, if you activate 3 of those, it's GG, you win. That's 9,000 life points. That's 1,000 more than 8,000, if my math rounds up correctly. So that's crazy. Of course, the hard part about it is getting those 30 cards. But there's ways you can do that with certain decks. I mean, there you have decks like Empty Jar and things of that sort. A lot of quick drawing decks like Exodia decks, library, FTK kind of stuff. So there are ways to draw your deck. You could use this in the long game, but obviously this is kind of more for like FTK type of deal, but it inflicts so much damage. I think it can't be disregarded just how powerful this is, because you don't need to pay life points for it. You don't need to. It just activates once you have that requirement met. That's it. It just needs that one thing, and that one thing can be kind of hard to do. And obviously, you don't want to draw this early game. It's a very bricky card otherwise. But I think it's much more viable than a Final Countdown FTK. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just looking at this card, and I've been thinking about it for a while. I've tried a couple of deck builds of it, and I think, like, there's something here to be uncovered. I think someone needs to blast these ruins, find that ancient sarcophagus with this ancient deck that's gonna wipe everyone out, and use it. So yeah, Blasting the Ruins is my next one. So the one following that is another trap. Yeah, actually, there's no spell cards in this. So we got Force Requisition. I first saw this card in my Test Your Luck Pharaoh's Servant video, which I was very surprised by it. I mean, you have any card that kind of looks like Confiscation, and you think, wow, that's crazy. It's a continuous trap card. Its effect is you can only activate, or you can activate this card when you discard a card from your hand. After that, each time you discard from your hand, your opponent must also discard the same number of cards from his or her hand. that's really good. Downside, right off the bat, is that you can only activate it after you discard from your hand. I wish it activated when a card that activated that discards a card was activated. I think that would make this much better, so you get its effect off right away. But the fact is that it doesn't mean that it needs to be from an opponent's effect. It's not like an electric snake kind of thing. You can do this either or. Whether your opponent has, let's say, a Don Zalug, or you use a Graceful Charity. It's like that's crazy. I'm not sure how this would work with card destruction. Probably might work with card destruction. I'm not entirely sure of the rulings for this, but yeah, anytime any card is discarded from your hand, your opponent discards a card. So once you get this thing going, if you start using more discard cards like Phoenix Swing Wind Blast, Divine Wrath, Raigeki Break, things of that nature, all of a sudden that your opponent they have to discard those same number of cards. And yeah, again, cards like Graceful Charity, they're gonna have to dump cards too. And I feel like this is a fantastic hand control card that everyone just doesn't talk about. I mean, obviously, hand control isn't the big thing in 2005 Yu-Gi-Oh! More of a 2003 Yu-Gi-Oh! Format. But, you know, if you got Sinister Serpent, then they discard. Unfortunately, it's not random cards from your opponent's hand, but if you can get more than one, and if you can get rid of that Serpent, you're golden. Yeah, you're good. You're good for that. It's a great way to do a lot. I definitely think this card is probably my favorite one out of all of them, between like this and probably Sasuke Samurai 2, I would say. But again, you can't go wrong with a card that looks like a trap version of Confiscation. So, all right, the final one we got is the Goblin Fan. This was actually a promo card from 2003. This was like the first tech I saw that kind of helped me gear to this video. I would say in order, probably Goblin Fan, Frontier Wizen, Blasting the Ruins, Force Requisition. Sasuke Samurai 2 was kind of like the last one I picked for this. But Goblin Fan was definitely one of the ones I wanted to show on here. It is a continuous trap, and its effect is when a level 2 or lower monster is flip summoned, destroy it. Its effects do not activate at that time. So, of course, there are downsides to this. Obviously, there are sort of better cards already. Ones that instantly destroy face-down cards like the aforementioned Mystic Swordsman, or Nobleman of Crossout banishes, or Light of Intervention just flat outright does not allow your opponent to set monsters. But it does have its own utility because it does activate on its own. It does work for a specific monster. You don't need to use other resources because it is a continuous effect, so you don't need to have that Mystic Swordsman or Nobleman Crossout requirement for that one-time use. It does continuously use its effect, and yeah, I think there's some use for it. I don't think it's the... Obviously, like I mentioned, there are other cards that sort of do what it does, but a bit better. But I think the continuous effect of it and just the more specific nature of it could find use at some point in time. I also like the look of it. It's a big grass fan. I don't know why it's a goblin fan. I guess a goblin has it. I don't know. But yeah, I think it does have some utility with it. I think we have to require more theory crafting around it. But again, I think it's not a bad card, and that's why I want to showcase it. So let me know what you think about this video, about the picks that I had. What do you think for future picks? Just let me know what you would pick down below, and if you want to see more stuff like this, definitely let me know for that. And yeah, until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.